Hey everybody, Bob Chick back with another edition of the Voice of Bodybuilding, joined once again by my old-time friend. And when I say old, Shawn, I mean old because you on the precipice of 60 years old, brother.
And you are right behind us. Our good friend, the real deal Cormier, celebrated 58 years yesterday. And we've been around for a minute.
We got in 60 to boot. So listen, congratulations in advance, my friend. We've made it to the big time. This officially puts us in an angry old man status. You gotta like
I
that.
know, but the good thing about it, Bob, is that my birthday comes at the kickoff of the football season. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
right
right.
there. But the good thing about it is we will never be and are not as old as the Maryland Muscle Machine and the big nasty Ronnie Coleman. So Kevin Levrone,
Yeah,
Ronnie
yeah.
Coleman, and Flex Wheeler, I might add. I think
That's right.
Flex is today the 20th?
Is today the 20th? Today is
I,
yes, today's the 20th.
I believe it's Flex Wheeler's birthday, if I'm
Well,
not mistaken.
listen, happy birthday, Flex, our young, slightly older brother. But the beauty of 60, Shawn, is that allegedly with age comes wisdom, my friend, and that's what today's edition is all about. Brought to you by, of course, all of our great sponsors with Panada, Mutant, ProFit, Icon Meals, Celsius, Egg Whites International. We've got a whole bunch of great sponsors. We appreciate their ongoing
Mhm.
support, of course. We're going to get right into it. Before we get into the main subject today, which I think people are going to be very much looking forward to seeing and hearing our opinion on, Kalecinski is in the news today, my brother. He has made the wise decision. You can go back and reference a edition of The Voice of Bodybuilding not that long ago where I uttered the words, if Urs was a smart guy, and I hope you're listening, bro, you need to go to the open class, and that's exactly what he's doing, Shawn.
There's a lot of those guys that actually could make the jump. We were talking about Chris Bumstead. He waited
Yeah.
till the end of his career to actually do it. And I think had he stayed the course, he might have had some success.
Yeah.
If he wanted another bite at the apple, he might have had some pretty good success. I think Urs, being younger, made the decision smartly because he was just holding back that growth. His body is screaming for size, screaming for calories. A lot of people don't take into fact that some of our better classic physique guys are natural bodybuilders holding themselves back on this restricted calorie diet in order to make weight, which I believe Flex Lewis was doing
Yeah.
probably 2 or 3 years longer than he should have, but he felt holding on to that championship was more important than testing the waters. And we do know some examples of success in the form of Hadi Choopan and, of course, Derek Lunsford, and next up, Keon Pearson, who, when they decide not to restrict their bodies and starve their bodies to make a weight, that the actual growth
Yeah.
fills them out. And so there's some fruit at the end of that rainbow. There's some riches waiting for them because, mind you, you win the 212, you win $50,000. You win Classic Men's Physique, you win $50,000. First jumps into the Open, he has a shot at making the top five, and he's going to make more than $50,000. So again, I think there's some guys staying too long. Breon Ansley is another one. I think should have gone open bodybuilding a long
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
ago, or at
Yeah.
least 212 bodybuilding. He'd have much greater success. Urs is another example of a guy who actually recognized the down and distance early, and now he may have better success in the open bodybuilding because of his height.
Well, listen, we looked for an answer. We speculated. We've wondered aloud, in particular, whether it's a federation thing. Maybe they should look into to do something. Well, Shawn, here's our answer. Okay, the answer is it's not even necessarily a federation thing. The
Yeah.
athletes are who dictate where everything goes. So, Urs, I applaud your move, and I think he might be the catalyst, Shawn, that opens up the floodgates that other people see exactly what you just said, and they go, you know what? Looks great, or maybe he just kicks ass and he wins and he qualifies for the Open Olympia. He's got all the attributes. That's why I suggested last year that he go to the Open. So I'm glad he was receptive. I'm sure this didn't come just from my suggestion or ours, but he probably just found himself that he ain't going to make the weight very easy, and he looks better with some muscle. He's a big kid, and he's a young kid. So, but this could very much open up the floodgates, Shawn, to others that follow suit, and they understand and realize and recognize that bodybuilding is bodybuilding. They can themselves control the direction of where open goes over the next foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think, listen, the classic division to me is more powerful than the open division because in
Yeah.
the open category, we're talking 3 or 4 guys, maybe 5. In the classic, that's really where our gene pool migrated to. Not everybody can put the size on needed when you're 6 foot plus. but that seems to be where the talent is in the classic. And another 5 pounds on Urs, and he's right where he needs to be, condition wise, shape wise. These guys are going to prove you don't have to be over 260 pounds just because you're 6 feet tall. And I think Chris Bumstead gave us a glimpse of that.
Yeah.
Where was that? Where was that show hold at? Was that the Evo over in Prague?
That was
Where
overseas. Yeah.
yeah, he narrowly lost to a little bit more watery Martin Fitzwater. But
Yeah.
if Bumstead had stayed the course, I guarantee you more of those classic guys would have followed him. I'm glad Urs recognized it early, and I predict nothing but success for that guy.
Well, Shawn, pivoting to a direction that has absolutely nothing to do with this and about as completely as opposite as you can possibly be. There's a post I just saw that a women's physique competitor, all right, this girl's getting ready for a show, pro show, is from what I understand, and she's got a beard. Now, there's a picture of her with a beard. Now, I think she's a transitional person, whatever you want to call these people these days. I don't want to make, God forbid, I should make the wrong, accusation or name. But and she made a statement that she actually wants to compete in the women's bodybuilding division with a beard. Now, everybody's freaking out. Oh, what are they going to do? What's the federation going to do? What's the? This is an outrage, and then the sports and this and that. Listen, people, take a chill pill and relax. First of all, there's nothing in the rules that don't state that you can't compete with a beard as a female. It does look a little weird, obviously, but here's the bottom line, okay? We are in a sport based 100% solely on appearance. That's what you get judged on, okay? 100% on appearance. If the appearance doesn't meet the criteria that the judges are looking for, and the women's physique division, as you know, my friend, is very well spelled out because it was written up by yours truly, okay? I wrote the criteria for the women's physique division. I'm very, very in tune as to what it says and what it follows. If the appearance does not look like what they're looking for, then all you do is you put that person in particular in last place, okay? It doesn't meet the criteria. It's not what you're looking for. It doesn't lend to what it is that that division and that criteria stands for. So to me, it's an easy solution.
Well, look, I mean, this is it's an art form. Bodybuilding on men and women's side has always been considered an art form. We're liable to see anything. It wasn't too
Yeah,
long ago
right,
that we were talking about the guys jumping around like idiots, not hitting
right.
poses. It drew our attention because it was different. This is one sport where you can express yourself, good, bad, or otherwise. It's a form of expression, and there's nothing that prohibits facial hair. She's not the only female with facial hair. A
Well,
lot of girls well, a lot of girls choose to shave it off, but there's no criteria. There's a lot of men who happen to shave or not shave. We've seen guys go up on that stage that have hair on their backs and they choose not to shave the hair off their back. Look, if it's not going to be for you, it'll be against you. So if she wants to go out and make a statement, nothing prohibits her. She's no less of a female because she's hairy. I'm jealous. I don't have much hair. I never really had to shave, and that could be looked at as an advantage. But we're liable to see anything on an art stage. Some people argue whether it's a sport or not. I have no problem with her going up there with a full face, full Manchu,
it's got a full
whatever the
beard.
hell it
Yeah,
is.
it's full
Yeah,
beard.
a full. All right, but we know genetically that she's a female. She has every right to be on that stage. Is it an advantage for her to have facial hair? I don't think so. I've seen really good athletes get marked down because of their hairstyle or lack thereof. So here's one anomaly that's new to our industry, someone brave enough to be authentic. And if that's how she wants to show herself, she's not saying she's a man. She's got facial hair. She's not alone in that department. I'm
Right.
curious to see what it looks like. I think there'll be a lot of awkward silence. I'm not sure her physique looks phenomenal. You can't take her physique away.
Actually, has a
But
decent
look,
physique.
I've heard girls get marked down because of the color of their suit didn't match their hair. The hairstyle was all over the place, or they didn't have the hair. So she's just pushing the envelope on the what are we gonna do when we see it? Well, we know going in, she's a female. I think it's a nothing burger. I don't think it's gonna help her cause. I think
No.
she'll be more competitive. She'd be more competitive without it. But I'm not gonna point my finger because I know exactly what I'm looking at going into the show.
Well, speaking of weird analogies and anomalies, as it would be, Shawn, that's going to bring us to our subject of the day. And it's no stranger to this show because we have covered this in the past. I got to be honest, I didn't really think that this would be coming up anytime soon, but here it is. We actually did cover briefly the Masters Olympia. That was held a few weeks ago. overseas in Tokyo. Now, we didn't give it extensive coverage. It's not our favorite division. I'm not a big Masters fan when it comes to, that division, especially if it's an Olympia qualifier. But that's a whole different subject matter right now. What I had hoped is that it was just going to kind of come and go quietly and we'd move on as we're, 7 weeks out, I think, from the Olympia this week.
7.
But unfortunately, Shawn, it has reared its ugly head once again. Our old friend, Phil Clayhart, is out there on every show with barking to anybody that's got an ear about his story. He got screwed once again, Shawn. I know that's shocking to you. To refresh everybody's memory, okay, it was only a year or so ago that I'd like to think actually we're the ones that kind of put Phil on the map because of the same exact. This guy is the biggest crybaby poor sport I've ever seen in this game. Every single show.
I think, to be fair, because there's a lot of people that don't know who Phil Clayhart is. Do we have his resume, by the way? Can we go down the track record?
Great point. Yeah, I can brief you myself. He turned pro a little bit later. He won like the Jamaican championships or something. I don't know. He didn't.
Do you know what year that was, Bob? I'm trying to get more specific.
I really don't. I didn't do enough homework.
I want to make sure who we're talking about. Someone that everyone's familiar with.
No,
this is the guy.
No,
okay.
Not everybody's familiar. That's why I want to kind of spell it out a little bit for everybody. He was kind of what I call a mid-carder. He did okay. He didn't have a bad physique. Just wasn't going to do, any real damage on the pro stage. Well, a couple years ago, he found himself in the winner's circle of all places at the Europa Orlando show, which I was emceeing. I actually called his victory over.
Who did he beat?
Hassan Mustafa, if you remember him. Hassan, short, real stocky, muscular guy, but he was very, very soft and very watery.
Is he a top Olympian? Do I know?
He's been in the Olympia a couple of times. Okay. He's won a few shows. Like I say, he's very muscular, very thick. Like I say, he's short and stocky. Okay. Well,
so he won a pro show. Yeah.
It wasn't a particularly good show. Hassan was probably the top name, but Hassan, this is going to come back full circle, was miles ahead of Phil in terms of muscularity. He's miles ahead of a lot of people, but he was so soft that you literally just couldn't give it to him. Phil showed up. He was in shape. I believe it was 49 at the time, or 50, which is a testament, which we've given him credit for actually in the past. You probably wouldn't remember that.
He would have been a Masters competitor competing in the Open.
Yeah. And listen, it wasn't his fault. I mean, he was there to win the show. But there's a big difference, Shawn, as we both know, being sports fanatics, of winning the show. Did you win the show or did the other guy lose the show? And people don't know the definition of that. Let me give everybody an analogy, okay, as to what I mean. So when I say that Phil didn't really win the show as much as Hassan lost his show, it'd be like if two guys are in a race, okay, they're in a sprint, 50-yard dash, okay? Both guys take off. One guy takes a huge lead. He's 3 steps ahead, crosses the finish line, boom, he wins. That guy won the race, okay? No questions about it. Now, what does it mean to actually lose the show? Well, both guys take off. One guy's 3 yards ahead. He trips and falls, and now the other guy goes ahead and crosses the finish line. Now, did that guy, did he win the race, or did the other guy lose the race? Okay.
So this was a few years ago. So he won the show in Orlando.
That's correct.
Qualified for the Mr. Olympia. Did he go in the Open Mr. Olympia with that qualification?
Yes, he did.
And how did he do in that Mr. Olympia?
He took dead last.
Okay, so he's dead last. That was 3 years ago. What happened since then?
Okay, again, this will bring everybody up to speed, even if you never saw one edition of this or any of that stuff that happened with Phil back then. So after that show, he goes in the Masters Olympia. That was 2 years ago because it's only been every other year. He took 3rd place, which was very respectable, behind 2 familiar guys, Kamel Elgarni, and I believe it was Max Charles that was in 2nd place. And Phil took 3rd place.
Was he 50 at the time?
50 years old.
All right, so he was 3rd. What happened since then?
Okay, so now what happens is Phil goes in. The next show he goes into is, I think it was the Chicago Pro, if I'm not mistaken. Open men's Chicago
51, Pro. 50 plus.
I think he's 50, 51. I don't know exactly. But he's a Masters competitor. I know he kind of took offense to that when we referred to him as such. But
he's over 50.
But he's 50-ish. Okay, that's fine. He went in the Chicago Pro Open, and he took dead last. Okay? Now,
so it took last. Yeah.
No problem. It is what it is, right? Then he goes in Tampa. And the Tampa Pro Open, this is a Masters. This is open competition. And he takes dead last. Now,
that's three dead last, yeah.
Yeah. And this is where it gets funny. So this is where the story begins. That gives the background for everybody to chew on, okay? Why is there a story after that? Well, it was after the Tampa show that Phil came out on our buddy Matt's, Discord Matt's podcast, and he is bitching up a storm about how he got screwed, how he was put in the last, how it was very apparent to him that they want him out of the sport. They want him out of the open division. This is what he said. They want him out. Okay. A very clear message. Tyler Mannion, they put him all the way on the end. They might as well put him off the stage. Didn't even look at him. All right. And he felt disrespected, and it was a big conspiracy. Okay.
Where did he think he was supposed to place, by the way? Did he ever say?
Well, here's the fun part, right? Matt, okay. I went on his Matt show last year, the year before, whatever it was, and I gave him an opportunity. I thought, he's a young kid, getting the podcast going. Matt now we're going back and forth talking about this because Phil felt he couldn't figure this whole thing out, right? And he said, I just wish somebody could explain it to me. I just wish somebody could tell me what, and I said, hey, right here, I got you, bro. And I explained it to him on the peg. Phil, you're not as good as you thought you were, okay? It's that simple. You're just not as good as you think you are, okay? And judging by where your placings are, now, he thinks he's a superstar because he won Orlando. Now,
3 years ago. 3 years ago?
2 years ago. But here's the problem. Okay. Listen, he got lucky at that show. There was nobody in it, and the guy who should have won was so soft you couldn't give it to him. No problem, okay? It is what it is. We don't take the victory away. It's not your fault. Good for you, okay? But you have to know your place, right? You're not that good, as evidenced by your last place finish at the O. So now Matt gets on, I get on his show, and he says, well, and he's trying to defend Phil in that he got screwed right out of his placing. And I says, well, where did you have him? And he said, now keep in mind, the head judge is Steve Weinberger, by the way. That'll come full circle. And Matt says, well, I think he should have gotten a call out in the first call out, with the first call out.
But he was last.
He eventually ends up in last, right? But I says, Matt, what are you looking at? What are you talking about? And I says, based on what? Well, it's just my opinion. Well, no, it can't just be your opinion. You have to qualify it. What made you think he deserved a look into the first call out? And he can't really answer the question. He's floundering around with, it's my opinion. It's my opinion. And finally he says, well, just based on what he did last year, winning Orlando. Yeah, I know. You can see where I'm going here, bro. That I think that warranted a call out. And I said, man, nobody judges on what you do last year. That's the very essence of politics, isn't it? That you're going to base a call out on what some guy did at a different show at a different time.
Yeah.
So
how many guys were in the show from last year? Just Phil?
Who knows and who cares, right? It really doesn't make any difference. But the bottom line is, but man, he was in the last call out. He took last. So now your credibility is shot. Because you thought, under whatever circumstances, that he warranted a first call out, and you're not even in the map, right? He was last. He was in the last call out.
So Matt was so passionate about this that he then made Phil his co-host on his radio show.
Yeah. Well, this puts Phil on the map in it because nobody even knew who Phil Clayhart was until we made it a thing, right? Because I went on and he didn't like my comments at the time or yours, and. So now he wants to push back. We're the assholes, right? Because now we're just being disrespectful and this and that. He didn't need me to, After that, his wife calls Steve. Now, why he didn't call him beforehand, I don't know. But not him, his wife. His wife calls Steve. Yeah, they have some kind of conversation. Steve being Steve, and I got to give him credit, although I got to bust his balls also. Old Steve would have given him a slightly different answer. The new Steve is a little bit kinder, a little bit gentler, a little bit more PC. I love Steve, by the way. And, I don't want to say he fluffed him up, but he basically told me, listen, you can still, Bob said I can't compete with the Open. And Steve said, well, listen, you can compete. And he kind of gives him the soft shoe. Listen, don't just bring yourself in. You didn't bring it that show. If you bring your best, you can still be competitive and all that stuff.
This is after he retired, right? This is after.
Well, yeah, this is after he retired and he was done and all this stuff. But unfortunately, old Steve would have been a better candidate for this because old Steve would have told him the truth. And I say that with all due respect because he didn't lie to him. He just kind of gave him the soft shoe answer. Okay. He can't compete. You can't hang. You're not going to compete with the Open guys anymore. Compete with the Masters guys. You can be competitive there. Well, when we said that, he took huge offense. How dare? How dare you and I call him a Masters competitor?
50 years old and he's not a master.
The guy was third in the Masters Olympia and 50 years old. So I don't know. Call us crazy, but anyway. So now this brings us to forward. So he says he's done with competing. I think really meant was he was done with Open competing. Great. Good move. Okay, great move. Now he decides, now we roll around. Now it's, well, 2 years later. Okay, now we're back around to the Masters Olympia again. Now, this is where it gets fun, my friend. Okay. He goes in the Masters Olympia, which is an invite, by the way. It's an invitational. You and I just covered this on the last show. Okay. The committee that we speculated, we don't really know who picks it, but I have a strong suspicion it's obviously Jake Wood, his team over there. It's his show. He's a promoter of okay. And I would think that the IFBB Pro League would be involved. Okay. So let's just speculate and say it's at least those two parties that pick the invitational to the Masters Olympia. Now, I got to jump ahead to jump backwards again. The show takes place. Phil loses the show to Dorian Haywood, okay? And he goes ballistic. Ballistic. As you've seen, and you've seen a few of his interviews, it's absolutely embarrassing.
Really quick, before he goes ballistic, let's talk about who's Dorian. Where did he come from? What has he done? How did he get there?
Dorian Haywood, who's out of Colorado, nice fella. He's competed for a few years. He's a mid-packer type of guy. He's placed as high as fourth in a few shows, but mostly usually around the 9 or 10 mark, somewhere about.
How old is he? How old do you think he is?
Well, he's in the Masters, so he's in his low 40s, I'm guessing, early 40s. Okay.
He's probably younger. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in his, I'm going to say early 40s. Okay. Dorian goes in. Now, there was no big names, okay? As you and I, again, speculated before the show. There was no Brandon Curry.
In the show.
There was no Bonac. Okay, there was no Max didn't go in. A lot of the big names did.
Brandon Curry pulled out.
Yeah, well, he didn't end up going for various reasons, financial or not. But anyway, so there was no real big superstars that were in the show. Became apparent. I wasn't there. I got people that were there, and then I've of course talked to judges and everybody else in between. Seen the video footage like everybody else did. Becomes apparent right off the bat that this is a contest between Phil Clayhart, Dorian Haywood, who actually looks decent, and a German guy. Don't remember his name, but he was actually put together pretty good. Okay. So it's these three that are in the mix for the running here. Okay. Right off the bat, and this is kind of funny how it comes full circle, Shawn, because Dorian versus Phil is like Phil versus Hassan. Dorian is thick. He's very stocky. He's got a lot of muscle, but he is softer than soft.
Yeah.
So, and the other guy, the German guy, actually is in decent shape, but he's very up and down. He doesn't have any legs, and he's very, very up and down. The guy
got third, right?
He ends up in third eventually, but in the morning, what happens is Phil ends up in first place in the morning. This prejudging, okay? He's leading. The German guy actually is in second, I believe, by the points.
I have the German guy winning.
Yeah, well, listen, he's missing some stuff, but everybody's missing stuff. Nobody's great, okay? Okay, I'll just say that, okay?
Okay, so Phil's leading after prejudging.
Phil's leading after prejudging.
He's got is there a number? Is there points? 5, 4,
it's like
3, 6?
4, I don't know, 14 to 6 or 8 or something like that. Okay. 14 out of. He's basically, it's unanimous that he's winning in the morning.
All right, great. I'm going to stop you right there.
Please.
So this is a full day show, right? So you have the prejudging, which
correct,
is scored.
Sir. Yes.
And then you have the finals, which is scored.
Yep.
Confirmation round.
Correct, sir.
Athletes have a chance to change because there's some hours and time that go by.
Of course.
They don't decide the finals at the prejudging, do they?
No, that would be at the finals, yes.
Okay, so the show is at the halfway mark, and at the halfway mark, like a 100-meter race, Phil Clayhart is in the lead.
Yes, he is.
Can you give me 3 other examples where that's ever happened at, let's just say, the Mr. Olympia or Ms. Olympia?
Funny you should mention that, Shawn, because Phil's argument, and again, we're skipping around a little bit, but we'll get to the nitty-gritty here, is that he got screwed because he ends up losing to Dorian, and we're going to go into the why, okay? But he gets absolutely screwed. This is another conspiracy, of course. They're holding his comments against it now in this show, and they took it away from him.
But he's winning.
Yeah, he's right. He's winning. Now, let me just back up with the points thing, okay, because it's interesting. Number one, it's an invitational, okay? If they wanted to hold him back because they didn't like his comments from last year.
They don't invite him.
They don't invite him, right? They say, look, you know what? This guy's he's a poor sport. He's a big mouth. I didn't appreciate his comments. So nobody has to invite him. So that's number one, right? If they wanted to screw you, why would they have invited you to compete in the show? Number two.
They brought him in and they gave him the lead.
Right. If they wanted to screw you, I hope you're listening, Phil, because I'm going to speak real slow and concise so you can understand this. The words coming out of my mouth. If they wanted to screw you, if they wanted you to not win, if they wanted to send a message to you, why on God's green earth would they have had you winning in the morning?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's a $1 million question.
Now, he likes to give he doesn't want to get on Steve's ass. So he basically says, well, Steve judged it right, but then he got a phone call.
6. So my thing is, all respect to Steve, all respect to Sandy, all respect to Tariq, the other judges that were there, because the first round, which was finals, it was judged correctly. So I can't say it was robbery completely because it was judged correctly. What happened after? Come on. It's impossible. Ron, you know this. We've never seen a scorecard flip like this at all. So
Steve is indeed the head judge, and that's fine. Sandy Williamson's also a judge. So you not only have the number, you have the number 1 and 2 Olympia judges. They're judging the show, okay? They unanimously put him in first place. If they wanted to screw him or send a message, or they took some exception to his words from last year, why would they have not just buried him? Why would you put him in first place? Now, hang on. This is where it gets fun. He speculates because he says, well, no, Steve judged it right because he doesn't want to badmouth Steve, right? He got a call. So somewhere after prejudging, Shawn, a call came in.
Judging score and look at their final score. Then look at me and Dorian's. We are the only two in the entire show it flipped like that. We got to start using some brains and stop trying to hold our mouths because of whatever the case may be. Prejudging was judged fairly. Something happened after prejudging. I don't know, check-in call. I don't know what was going on. And it was, in my mind, Clahar cannot win today. That's just what I believe. Because it was fair in prejudging. The problem is coming now in the finals, and I did not fall apart.
Now, a call can only come in from there's only one person, 2 people that happen to have the same name that are above Steve and Sandy, and that name begins with the letter Mannion, okay? So now the speculation is that either Tyler or Jim, and I can take Jim out right now because Jim doesn't even know who Phil Clayhart is, okay? That he made a call and says, he can't win. What are you doing? You got to take him out, right? As if this is a thing. So wait a minute. They knew you were going in the show months ago because it's an invitational. Your name's on the list. What do you think, Steve and Tyler don't talk?
So can you tell me who would have told Phil that Steve Weinberger got a phone call unless he's with Verizon and he gets the notification?
Well, he's speculating because he painted himself into a corner because he doesn't want to accuse Big Steve because Steve was his guy. Steve's the one who told him, bro, you can still compete. You're still competitive. You're good. Don't worry, right?
So someone else had to be behind all of this.
Correct.
Really quick, while we're right here on the edge and the precipice of the breaking news. So this doesn't sound like he's the very first guy to ever lose a contest that he was winning.
No, thank you for coming back to that.
Give me 3 Olympia examples.
Yeah, so listen. So his big thing now is the points. You can tell it's a scandal, Shawn, because of the points. Nowhere in the history of bodybuilding has ever anybody been ahead by that many points and lost a show. So it's very obvious what happened, right? Except for one thing, idiot. It's happened many times, okay? Most notably, we've had it happen at the Olympia, not the Masters Olympia, okay? Jay Cutler was ahead by 6 points, if memory serves, Shawn, in 2001 over Ronnie Coleman, who was the champ, and still lost the show. That was
by the way, it could be argued, debatable, that Jay's a better poser than Ronnie Coleman is.
Oh, well, listen, I had Jay winning. I had Jay winning in 01, so I mean, that's to me. Yeah.
And listen, and so did I, but somehow or another, miraculously, Jay wound up surviving.
Right, yeah,
By the way, a little known fact, so I can educate those that don't know. Besides Jay's 4 Mr. Olympia victories that came years after that infamous 2001.
5 years.
Some call it an outrage. Not only did he go on to win 4 times, but the guy wound up getting second place.
You're right.
6 times. That's how nasty the Federation was to Jay Cutler.
Well, listen,
they made him second 6 times.
Well, point-wise, and again, you're probably
give me another example. Give me another example.
If I'm not mistaken, you actually would be a little more in tune. I think Lee Labrada had a lead in an Olympia, did he not?
90, the Lee Labrada, aptly named by the totally awesome Lee Haney, was beating not only myself, who wound up in 3rd, but also the greatest bodybuilder of all time, Lee Haney, going for a record-tying 7th for Arnold, was beating Lee Haney in 1990, and somehow or another, Lee at 170 pounds, by the finals, managed to pose himself out of first place and lose to the ultimately bigger Lee Haney, and Lee Haney kept his
And I
title.
think
And
that
on the
and there was a women's show, was it? Was it Bev Francis? Again,
so this is in 1990. Just prior to that, the most muscular woman in the world was winning right here in Los Angeles,
yeah,
beating Linda Murray of all people, who was the reigning Miss Olympia. And somehow or another, being as muscular as Bev Francis was, being in the lead, she managed to fumble the ball, Weinberger's wife at the time, and ultimately get beat by Linda Murray. So I'm not sure where the outrage should go. Should it go on Jay Cutler losing to Ronnie Coleman, who has already been
right.
Mr. Olympia, Lee Labrada losing to the reigning Mr. Olympia, Bev Francis losing to the reigning Ms. Olympia, Linda Murray, or Phil losing to Dorian from Colorado from around the way?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure where the conspiracy lies here. I just don't see
Well,
it.
so this is the root of it. Okay, it's the points. That's the smoking gun, Shawn. It's right there. Number one, none of them know their history. Okay, because Phil doesn't know anything about anything. Matt, he thinks he's a big, media bodybuilding guy, but he has no pedigree, no background, and certainly no eye for bodybuilding. He's already established that. So he's out. So none of them are sitting there. Ron Harris, I actually saw in one thing, and I like Ron very much, but he just sat there agreeing with everybody. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the nuts.
Here's the problem with Ron, is that Ron didn't point out any case history. And not only that, when did any contest you've ever watched, participated in, MC'd,
Right.
or handicapped, when was the show over after prejudging?
Well, another great point, Shawn. Man, you're just hitting them out of the park here, bro. You're just stroking doubles the entire game here. No show is done after prejudging. As we've speculated for many, many years, there's something called the finals and something called the confirmation round of scoring, which was particularly put in when we took out the posing round. I'm sorry, Milos. Okay. And what we put in its place was the confirmation round of scoring. And you know why we put that in, Shawn? Because it was getting scored, and it was one last chance for the judges to make any changes they saw fit. So you had to maintain your shape, because what was happening at the time was guys would go in the prejudging, look phenomenal, then go eat pizza and shit, thinking that the show's over, show up at night looking like crappy, and just a water bag. And then the fans are going, how did this guy win, right? But, well, if you would have saw him at the prejudging. So that's why we have the confirmation round of scoring. So to leapfrog to your point, okay? And Phil, again, pay attention here. Get your calculator out, and you can follow the bouncing ball as I explain this to you, because apparently you don't have any friends.
We just had an example, though, Bob, in Pittsburgh, where a show wasn't over till it's over.
Well, and you know what? The scoring is exactly the same here, okay? So Phil wins. Pay attention, Phil, okay? You got me? You won the prejudging. Dorian won, all right? And yes, you did fall apart. I know that's another one of his things sticking in his craw right now. People are saying I fell apart at night. That's bullshit. You can see by the video. Bro, I saw the video. Okay, we're going to get into that in just a moment. So, we got a power cord there. I need to plug in here. Sorry, I got to get running. I'm running down the juice here. So the bottom line is this. Phil wins the morning. You won the morning, Phil. Lock, stock, and barrel. Steve had you right there, brother. Even though they don't like you, right? Even though they didn't like your comments, even though they're going to keep you back and keep you down, somehow they had you winning the show. At nighttime, okay, you were soft. It's plugged in right there.
Honey, you can't keep talking and...
It's okay. We're doing like we're live here.
We're live. It's live. We're rolling the tape. Yeah, I've never known of a contest that would be over after prejudging, especially since we know that there's a finals involved, a confirmation is involved, and also the judges are entitled to review and also change their opinions. I've been there 13 times. I've witnessed it. I've seen it happen firsthand. So he's the first guy that this has happened to, and it's a problem.
So here's the math, bro. You lost the prejudging. Dorian won the night show. Now you're tied.
Yeah.
Okay?
Fight for it. Fight for it.
He ends up losing by 1 point, which is the confirmation round of scoring. That's why it exists. The nighttime is actually worth a little bit more because it's the finals, right? So, Mr. Mathematician, you can't figure out the points, and if you figure it out, there's just no way. It's mathematically impossible. We just saw this in Pittsburgh. One guy won one guy won the other. That's what happened here. The only catalyst in there is the German guy who gets a point or two either way, but he got it 1 or 2 in the morning and he got 1 or 2 at night. Actually, Dorian comes back much sharper at night.
Let me give a little consolation, okay?
Please.
It's tough getting second place. I've always said second is the first loser, right? And for what it's worth, He didn't get third, which a lot of people I talked to had him in third. So there's the other side of the coin, right? He thinks he should have been first. A lot of people thought he should have been in third. That hasn't been discussed, but it's debatable. Nonetheless, the show is over. I'm not sure where the sportsmanship comes in. There's a lot of shows I thought I should have won and I didn't, and I just came back the next year. Shut up and train, right? That's what they say. But if this is his way that he wants to retire, then more power to Phil. Thanks for the memories, the illustrious career, the game effort, leaving the country, going all the way down there, competing in the Masters. You're not the only one that lost in the contest that has to live with that. I don't think that in the annals of bodybuilding history that this is a contest that people are going to be debating about the way that they thought maybe Jay Cutler should have beat Ronnie Coleman in 01. Victor Martinez should have beat Jay Cutler in 2007. The way that Linda Murray should have, Beth Francis could have beaten Linda Murray. These are close calls. And at the end of the day, if you can't handle this, it is time to go. It's probably better to go away a little bit more quiet. If he's going to be rattling the chains and pulling out his boxing gloves from his old golden gloves things.
He's a golden gloves.
He's reminded everybody that will listen that he's a former Golden Glove. I thought he was a Masters bodybuilder, and I got the short end of the stick. Nonetheless, I just want to say, hey, thanks for the memories, man. I mean, what a valiant effort in Japan. It made it interesting that he's perpetuating the story. We'll go back, we'll run the clip, we'll watch the videos, and hard fought battle. Sometimes you just come up short. I know what it feels like. Kind of sucks, but that's the way you're gonna go out. Thanks for the memories.
Hey, listen, nobody was great. Just to recap, okay? Nobody was great on the stage, okay? They all got problems. Phil seems to think he came in at his all-time best for some reason. And again, hey, I kind of feel bad for Phil. Like I really do. We're all bullshit aside. Because you don't have one person around you close enough to tell you the truth, okay? You're not as good as you think you are, okay? You got lucky at one show and you won. And I don't see it as a put down. It's just the truth, okay? But again, nobody told you that either. You've taken dead last in your last 3 shows, okay? 2 in particular on the open stage. I didn't score you, so don't be mad at me. I'm just pointing it out. While everybody else is blowing smoke up your trunks, okay, to tell you how great you were and you can still hang, you can't, okay? But even in this context, Shawn, physique-wise, listen, he walks out and he says, and I'm going to quote him here because he's done this in interviews with anybody that's got a podcast or an ear. When he walked out, bro, they weren't expecting it, man. He walks out, and he was looking right at Steve, and he could see the shock on Steve's face.
Steve's face was shocked when I stepped on that stage for prejudging. I looked directly at him, completely shocked.
Now, this may be the only time I ever agree with anything you've ever said in your life, Phil. You are absolutely right. There was shock on Steve's face, but not for the reason that you think there was, okay? He was very much shocked at what he saw. And you know what he saw? A flat, beef jerky, dried out physique that had nothing. You got, again, listen, now we're going to do a physique assessment.
How is he so forgiving and aware and attuned with Steve Weinberger's assessment and then totally dismissive of everyone else's opinion as if they don't count?
Well,
Steve's opinion weighs exactly as much as Sandy's and the other 5, 6, 7 people on the panel.
Right.
Why the respect and admiration and acknowledgement of one judge without dismissing all of the judges? You can't tell me that Steve knows what he's talking about and he's great and all the rest are. You can't do it. They're all the same. The judging is scored the same. Either you like Steve or you hate him, but you hate them all for the same reason. You can disagree, but don't say I value Steve as a man and respect his opinion. All the rest of them are shit. Come on, man. I mean, come on.
Well, because this is where he talks out of both sides, right? He wants to paint a conspiracy, but the facts just don't add up. Again, they didn't have to let him in the show. They didn't have to have him in first place. They could have just put him in 4th. You think anybody would have cared or given 2 shits if he ended up in 3rd or 4th? You think anybody would have said anything, right? And you can justify it because, listen, I got pictures, and we can put a few of these pictures up that I had sent to me from somebody who was right there, okay? I can make a case for any one of them, honestly, because honestly, nobody's that good, okay? Now, first of all, he says, to Dorian as well, no disrespect to Dorian, the whole thing's disrespectful. And by the way, Bill, how offensive do you think it is to Steve while you're trying to save face that you're accusing him of getting a call from Pittsburgh? Like Tyler Mannion called Steve and says, hey, I don't care what you got, okay? Yeah, you take Phil out of the winner's circle. You think that's actually what happened, right? I mean, seriously? Like, bro, you again, get your head checked, man, because You were making a fool of yourself with these acts. Somebody owes him $10,000, bro. Hey, he
Yeah,
did
well, you
this
know
to put
what?
money on
I
his
think,
table.
listen, this is a sport of opinion, and we need to be able to be allowed to express ourselves. We need people like Phil because it shows an
Yeah,
example
to
to
retire.
others coming up. It shows an example others coming up behind him of what not to do. We've seen this. Phil's not the first one that's been
No,
sour grapes. I've
no.
seen William Bonig. I've seen Flex Wheeler. I've heard from Nathan Diasha. We have a lot of sore sports. They're passionate about the business, but you know what? The moratorium should be a good 48 hours. Don't open your mouth. Don't open. Go put some pizza in there. Eat some donuts. But he's continuing on with the narrative. I got to tell you, people aren't standing in line to listen to people spit out a bunch of bad news. You can have your opinion, but when it's not, when it's kind of baseless, when it's really self-serving, it just reeks of poor sportsmanship. I don't like it.
Listen, Earl.
I've complained too, but I couldn't single out a judge. And look who I was losing to. A guy with a
Right.
resume,
Big
a guy
difference.
that has the reigning, defending, multiple Mr. Olympia winner. Yeah, I'm complaining, but look who I'm losing to. We're complaining about losing to Dorian. From where? I mean, Dorian's good. I still think Dorian should be celebrated at the Mr. Olympia as a guest poser on one
Yeah.
of the nights somewhere over there on the expo stage or in between the women, not to be compared with the men open. But, going on that open stage as a Mr. Masters Olympia, I still don't think it's a fair fight. Your boy was Phil. You were in a fair fight and you lost. You know something about boxing. Take your lumps, man. Go eat the pizza and beer and give the guy his respect. Congratulations to Dorian. Big
Yeah,
comeback.
agreed. And agreed also that this is a case history and a great example of what not to do. So all competitive. Listen, you can voice your opinion. Listen, your boy Lee Priest bitched for years. He was on the chopping block as much as anybody, as well as you, who was not faint of giving out an opinion and stuff. Do you think it ever influenced the placings? No, I don't think
Yeah.
so. While Lee was complaining and bitching, he was winning shows too. So I don't know. So the shows he won were judged fairly, and the other ones they held it against him. Like, none of this makes any sense, but this really doesn't make any sense. And the problem I got, Shawn, is he's 3 pizzas deep right now. And, he's probably 30 pounds over what he competed at. And, he thinks he got screwed. And, he's out there, everybody, somebody owes me $10,000. I was robbed of $10,000 because
Who's
I
going to
should have
give it
won.
to him?
And you know
Yeah.
what? They can keep the title and they can keep the trophy and all that. I went there for the money to feed my family and all this stuff. It's like, bro, first of all, if that's how you plan on feeding your family, I'm telling you, you should, at 51 or whatever you are now, you should probably get a real job, okay? Because if you're relying on contest winnings, all
Prize
right, to
money.
feed your family, listen, the
You're
bottom
going to
line
starve.
is, I assume first place, I think, was 25 and he got 15 or something thereof.
Yeah,
If that be the case, it's like, well, bro, you probably spent 5, 6, 7 grand getting there and all that. So you didn't make a whole lot of money, but that's kind of here nor there. I have summed this up, Shawn, into a final on this one here that really explains everything. Okay, as we alluded to earlier, the problem, Phil, is, and listen, I don't hate you, bro. I really don't. I know you think we're your bitter enemies and we hate you and and all that
I don't
stuff.
even know the guy.
No, I barely know him. I know him from calling him out at a few shows and stuff like that. Great. But you've exposed yourself, unfortunately, as, again, the biggest poor sport that I've ever seen come down the pike in the world of bodybuilding. Every single show, including, by the way, the Masters show 2 years ago that you took third because I was there. And I was the first person he beelined it right up, him and his wife, bitching and complaining that he took third. This was an outrage. He should have won. He should have done it. They were complaining even then. But here's what
This
I've come
sport's
down
not
to.
for everyone.
Okay, teachable moment. Okay, everybody alert. Phil, I have figured out your problem. Okay, and it's right here in front of me. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Okay, for people that don't know what that is, Shawn, and you may not have even heard that one yourself. The Dunning-Kruger effect is individuals with a low ability in a particular area that believe they are more skilled than they are. Okay, now you may have heard this simplified to people that say, well, Dunning-Kruger means you're people that are stupid are too stupid to know that they're stupid. Okay, but this is the actual definition, okay? It's people that perceive themselves to be much better than they are. This
Yeah,
is you.
it sounds like people with bigorexia, anorexia. There's something missing. But the one thing that I don't think we need to look forward to, and thank God, is hearing from him again because it sounds like he's going to retire, and I think he'll look back on this in a different way because they most often do after some time has passed, and realize, you know what? If this is the sport that he's passionate about, going out like this, nobody's going to want to talk to you because they know what you're going to say. Nobody wants to
Well,
hear this kind of stuff. They don't.
listen, if you honestly think there's a conspiracy against you, who prior
Time to
to
go.
Tampa, nobody even knew who you were, okay, that they sending you a clear signal and they want you out of the sport and all this stuff, which is just absolutely
Insane.
just asinine and just weird, right? But you still decided to compete. You still decided to go on a show. You still got an invitation. By the way, not
Good
to be
numbers, so.
overlooked, Shawn, okay? At the Tampa show that he takes dead last, he actually doesn't even come back at night because he was so
He didn't
pissed
even
off
come
that he
back.
got dead last, right? He doesn't even show up, which by the rules, right,
Yeah.
is a suspendable offense, and you can be fined because you didn't even show up, which is about as unprofessional as it possibly gets. So
Yeah.
in a sport that you think that they're against you and they want you out, they could have suspended you and fined you, and you wouldn't even have been eligible to go in the Masters Olympia. But they didn't
Well,
care enough. They didn't even care enough to address it. He never got a letter. They never reached out to him from the office. He never got an email. You see any videos of Tyler Mannion addressing this? No, because they don't care, and they didn't care. And you were allowed in a show that was an invitational, and then you were put in the first place. You were right there. So Phil, if you're looking for a scapegoat, if you're looking for a reason why, if you're looking for whoever robbed you of $10,000, look in the mirror. There's your answer.
well said. I have nothing to add to that. Let that marinate. And thanks for the memories, Phil.
Thanks for the Phil. We wish you the best, bro. Go back to teaching boxing or whatever you're going to do. Hopefully you never step on an IFBB pro stage again. And Shawn, that's going to wrap it up for another great edition. Hope this answers some questions. As usual, everybody. Yes, that's me and Shawn right on there, giving you guys the same stuff that you give us. Okay, get on those comments. Please subscribe. Get some other people on there. You know, we do have a passion for what we do, of course. And we ain't going anywhere anytime soon at 60 years old. So for Sugar
Absolutely.
Shawn, I'm Bob Chick. Yo, we out of here.